They won't say it to your face, but they fear you more than anything. Not because you've harmed them, not because you've threatened them, but because your presence alone exposes everything they've been hiding. Your light, it convicts them. Your energy, it disrupts their darkness. You walk into a room and demons inside people start to twitch. Why? Because you're not just chosen, you're anointed, and the enemy knows exactly who you are, even if you don't. You were born with a frequency that rattles hell. From a young age, you noticed the tension. People turned on you for no reason. Strangers felt uncomfortable around you. You walked into places and felt like you didn't belong, even though you had done nothing wrong. That wasn't social anxiety. That was spiritual warfare. Because even before you were aware of your purpose, the enemy was. He saw your future, and he's been afraid ever since. See, demons aren't afraid of people who talk. They're afraid of people who walk in authority. And you carry authority in your spirit, not because you're perfect, but because you've been through hell and refused to break. You've survived betrayal, isolation, lies, depression, and you're still standing. That kind of resilience terrifies them, because a soul that can't be broken is a soul that can't be controlled. You've probably wondered why people spread rumors about you, why they tried to ruin your name, shut you out, discredit your power. It wasn't personal, it was spiritual. The spirits in them recognized the warrior in you, and they knew if others saw your true nature, it would expose their games. You became a threat just by being you. And this is what they'll never admit out loud. They fear your insight. You see things, feel things, know things before they happen. You sense hidden motives without being told. You hear what people don't say. That's not just intuition, that's divine discernment. It's a weapon God placed inside you, and every dark force around you knows they can't move in secrecy when you're present. Your spirit calls out the lies. But here's the part that really shakes them. You don't need a title. You don't need a stage. You don't need validation. You walk with quiet power. A power that doesn't need to prove itself. A power that can't be bought, manipulated, or diluted. You carry truth in a world built on deception. That alone is enough to make the enemy tremble. And yet, despite all the attacks, you keep rising. That's the part they can't figure out. How are you still standing? How are you still sane? After all the backstabbing, the isolation, the spiritual ambushes, you should have broken. You should have quit. But instead, you evolved. You got stronger, sharper, more aligned. That's not normal power. That's God's hand over your life. That's why they fear you more than a demon. Demons are predictable. They have a script. But you move with divine instruction. You confuse darkness. You destroy it without even knowing sometimes. Your prayers shift atmospheres. Your presence makes people confront the parts of themselves they'd rather bury. And the enemy knows, if you ever fully step into who you are, there's nothing he can do to stop you. That's why you were targeted so young. That's why the attacks started before you even knew who you were. Because your light has always been loud. Loud enough to be noticed by spirits. Loud enough to disturb what others are comfortable tolerating. You weren't just meant to survive. You were meant to awaken people. And awakening is messy. It makes people uncomfortable. It stirs up resistance, but it also sets people free. Understand this. The world doesn't fear noise. It fears clarity. And you carry clarity in your spirit. You speak truth in a world that thrives on confusion. You expose fake love, false loyalty, and spiritual deception without even trying. That's why certain people can't stand to be around you too long. Not because you're wrong, but because you remind them of everything they're pretending not to be. They fear you because you reflect what they've buried. You force confrontation without ever saying a word. Your light doesn't ask for permission. It just shines. And in doing so, it forces people to see, to choose, to change, or to run. And many choose to run. Because growth is painful. but don't dim yourself to make them comfortable. That fear they feel, it's not a sign to shrink. It's a confirmation that your power is real. Let the fear do its work. Let it separate who's real and who's not. Let it expose who's ready for truth and who just wants comfort. You were never meant to fit in. You were meant to stand out, to disrupt, to awaken. And that kind of purpose comes with resistance. Not because you're cursed, but because you're called. And those who are called always make the enemy nervous. You've walked through fire, and now you carry flame. That's why when people look at you, some feel inspired, but others feel threatened. Because without saying a word, your life is a mirror, a reflection of what's possible when someone chooses light. And that light, though beautiful, burns everything false. That's what scares them. They're not afraid of your shadow. They're afraid of your wholeness. You ever notice how some people try to challenge you, mock you, or provoke you for no reason? That's not about ego. That's spiritual friction. The demon in them is testing your restraint, because they know if they can pull you into reaction, they can blur your focus. But don't fall for it. You don't need to prove your power. You just need to stay aligned with it, because your silence is louder than their noise. You don't fight like the world fights. You don't clap back, you pray. You don't argue, you elevate. You don't curse, you bless. And that confuses the enemy even more, because they can't drag you into a war you've already won. Your battle wasn't with them, it was with yourself. And now that you've overcome that, nothing can touch you the same. That's why you don't fit in with old circles anymore, why certain friends fell off, why relationships collapsed. Not because something's wrong with you, but because your growth made them uncomfortable. You stopped tolerating what once drained you. You started speaking up, setting boundaries, healing your wounds, and that scared people who were counting on your brokenness to keep them comfortable. But here's the twist. The fear they feel isn't just fear, it's recognition. On a soul level, they know who you are. Even if they deny it out loud, their spirit knows yours. They know you've been marked, that you're not like the rest, that you were sent to shift things. And people fear what they can't control. You were never meant to be liked by everyone. You were meant to be respected, even in silence. And that respect often comes through fear. Not the kind that makes people tremble in terror, but the kind that makes them check themselves before approaching. The kind that demands authenticity, because they know they can't fake it around you. You don't chase. You don't beg. You don't manipulate. And that power, that divine detachment, it's rare. Most people are still trying to impress the world. But you've already been approved by heaven. That's why you can walk alone and still be full. That's why you can lose everything and still have peace. That's why, even when they try to bring you down, you rise higher. And when you rise, you expose everything around you. You show what's real and what's counterfeit. You don't just speak life, you embody it. And that makes you unforgettable. That's why they fear you, not because you're loud, but because you're undeniable. You carry a frequency that can't be replicated, a presence that can't be dismissed. So don't shrink. Don't question your path. Don't water down your power just to make others comfortable. You were born to stir things, to challenge systems, to confront lies. And sometimes that means being feared. But let them fear, because what they really fear is the truth you carry, the fire you walk with, the light you refuse to hide. And when it's all said and done, they won't remember what you wore, how loud you spoke, or how many followers you had. They'll remember how your presence made them feel, how you left a mark on their soul, how your silence shook their demons more than any scream ever could. You are the storm they hoped would never come, and they were right to be afraid.